My name is Robert Venable. I am a music producer, engineer, mixer, songwriter, bourbon enthusiast, podcaster. I don't know. I do all sorts of things. This is actually my co-host of my podcast over here. This is Jake Jones. We do Turned Up Podcast. It was like the best music podcast runner-up for iTunes Music Awards this year and iHeartRadio. Yeah, we did all sorts of really good things. It was fun. Anyway, enough tooting my own horn. I want to tell you guys some things that I know. Music productions, tricks, junk like that. And this is, I guess, disclaimer. I'm using Pro Tools, but most of these tricks, if not all of them, can be applied to whatever DAW you're using. And since production is a very vast, wide subject, it could be everything from things while you're designing a track, beat making, to while you're in the mix, adding some ear candy, to while you're recording vocals, things to think about, as well as guitars, across the genre list. So if you're doing country, folk, pop, I do a lot of pop and hard rock stuff, a little bit of country, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of everything but opera, pretty much. Good luck trying to pull these off in the opera realm. So let's just get started. What I have here is a session that I have mixed. This is not the mix, but it's got a little bit of everything in it. So I can kind of give examples of my ideas and thoughts while looking at the session. It's a band from Colombia. They are 15 years old, brother and sister. And it's just, yeah, I guess I can just play part of it. I don't know how loud it's going to be, but good luck to you. Very poppy. Turn it down a little
bit. This is your moment. This is your time.
Doesn't everybody love listening to other people's songs? Just kidding. So it kind of builds here. Cool. We get into the chorus. Sounds like this. Pretty standard stuff. It's a pop song. They're kids. We're good. It's overtuned. So it is what it is. So one of my favorite tricks. I'm gonna tell you some things. I don't know most of you. Probably don't know any of you. But these tricks, I don't know what you know. So some of these you're like, okay, this is elementary, and some of you are like, I've never heard this crap before in my life. And so pardon me if I'm getting too advanced, and pardon me if I'm dumbing it down too much. But I'm trying to tell everybody something. So good luck to you. I want to go to the interlude, the second interlude. Okay. It's a big musical interlude thing. It's cool. It's hype. It's the biggest part of the song. It all adds up to that. One thing I like to do in mixes and when I'm producing tracks, I want to create hype. How do you create hype? You can add more and more instruments. At that point, your mix actually sounds smaller. The more instruments you add in there, a lot of times, if you're stacking 8 tracks of guitar, if you're doing whatever, you're going to have, it's taking up headroom, it's taking up space, it's taking up frequency resonance. So aside from that, and you only have what you have to work with, I only had what you heard. This is a trick I like to play. Listen to this again. Right when it kicks in, this track that I just highlighted, it's called Crowd. Here's going into it. Here it is soloed. Score! It's literally a soundbite of a crowd somewhere in South America cheering for a soccer goal. And it goes throughout the whole interlude. I'm gonna play it again. Here it is with it. Here it is without it. I don't know if you can hear it. I'll turn it up a little bit. No! Great that. You know what I mean? Just like all of a sudden you have instant energy, but you don't know what you're hearing. None of you knew that there was a crowd in that part. If you did, I want to talk to you after this. I got a job for you. But like that, something as simple as a crowd effect. You can also use white noise. A lot of you have heard of that, which I could also show you to do. Right here, I've set it up. I'm a smart guy. Look at that. So I have a noise generator set up on here, a signal generator. It sounds like white noise. You can do the same thing, either just leaving it playing as standard white noise, and as soon as it hits, you just unmute it. Turn it down. You can run EQ on it. You can automate EQ on it to make it go psh, or vice versa for swells into the big chorus or the big interlude. You can add like wobble panning to it, which is kind of cool. It's like ping pong delay type stuff. You can add flangers and phasers. You can run it through distortion amps, emulators. Do whatever the hell you want to do to it, but it just occupies frequency space there in a hyped manner. And I like it's one of my secrets I use in almost every mix of a song that needs it, like a down ballad. I wouldn't all of a sudden, and thank you Jesus. Doesn't have the same effect, but you know, if that's what you're going for, go for it. What else do we got? I've got a little list here because I am ADD. Let's do. Oh yeah, okay. So. Also in this interlude, right down here, I just took a tom hit from somewhere in the song. Let me just solo this up. It's this little pink guy down here. It's got a little floor tom and a little cymbal bleed in it. It is not pretty, but it is what it is. And actually, leading up to it. So I just stole that from somewhere else in this same song. But one of my favorite things to do is take a tom hit. A lot of people use like a cymbal hit and reverse it and swell into a big part, hip hop, pop, rock, whatever, and a country. What I like to do is reverse the tom hit. So if you go, again, whatever DAW you're using will have some way of reversing audio. If it doesn't, I highly recommend Pro Tools or Cubase. Render. And you want to line it up to where the hit is. So right now it sounds like this. Now these speakers don't have a lot of low end frequency in there, but it's there. Here we can just make it pretend like it's there bigger. Let's use that. So if you want to like totally make it huge, who needs cymbals, right? So now it's got. I don't like the little v at the end because that's a little tell that it's the attack of something. Let's do that and move it over and take that little thing off. So now, there, it's kind of cool. You can add a big reverb tail to that if you want to, but like reverse tom. It's a little bit of hit your subs in your car, playing in a club or whatever. It's gonna hit those subs, and everybody's like, "What just happened?" Boom, drop happens. Crowd cheers, whatever. Crowd check. Anyway, how about that EQ curve, guys? Make that your wallpaper. Cool. Tambourine and everything. No lie. Almost every track I've produced or mixed, and my buddy Jake can attest to this, I throw tambourine in there. So much to the fact that I created my own tambourine package, Cano Tambos, not lying, where I recorded, .com. I spent one day recording in the studio everything from 50 beats per minute to 150 beats per minute. Every single tempo. I didn't skip one. I didn't time stretch anything. And I recorded a tambourine at every tempo because I'm sick of the stretch samples you find online. And then I put it online for sale for like $10 because I'm an idiot. But somehow people buy it. And I just drag and drop those into whatever the tempo is of the songs that I'm mixing or producing in the choruses or any kind of hyped parts. Because just like the crowd, you've got tambourine occupying some space. Now this is a little high in the mix because I wanted to feel that groove. I wanted to. That's everything in this song right here is going. So I wanted that to accent that. Sometimes it's not so obvious. It's a little more subtle in the mix. But literally, go sit in your car, whatever you listen to music on, and just listen for that tambourine. It's in everything. I'm not even lying. Like once you know that, now you can go listen to it and be like, crap, there's tambourine in everything. Somebody hired somebody to play a tambourine. But yeah, so that's the thing. Just keep in mind how to add some hype to your tracks. Let's talk about, snares. Most songs I know have a snare. Okay, so I have a snare, and it's a crappy snare. Here it is. It's just a snare sound, and it's crappy for, I mean, it's not for this song, but here we go. It sounds like this. It's a snare. Yeah. Everybody pop your, never mind. Don't stop, don't quit. So there's that song, or that snare. But what if you need something bigger, beefier, whatever? You guys already probably know. If you don't know, I'm sorry. Stack your snares, stack your kicks differently in verses to choruses. So say you got a verse and it's like, okay, cool, that snare's perfect. But then you hit the chorus, you need something beefier or need something thinner. Take out a sample, automate it, make a sample EQ differently on top of it, stack it. Sometimes you might need a big beefy snare, but it doesn't have enough top end. You can add a clap. You can add a hi-hat like stomp sound. Just add it to the top of your snare if you need that hyped side. This one I think is missing some low end. And every other one, you can see in the track right below it, I have a tom sample here. Let me solo that here. So if you add that up with every other snare sample, it's subtle. You just feel every other one. So if you need that extra thump in your mix and your snare is just sounding thin, throw a tom sample. It's literally just a tom sample from, I don't know, I just pulled one in, 16-inch tom. And just, you don't want to have, like, you don't want it to sound like this. Let me just show you real quick, people. You're smart people, you know better than this, but what if we left it like, and maybe you do. Maybe you want this for your sound. Maybe this is cool. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you want that, like, low, what just happened to that snare drum? It just jumped on the 808 bus. That's cool. Whatever. Just little things. If you want to beef up your snare a little bit, try that. Adding a tom. A lot of people don't know about that one. It's very kind of out there, but it works. Okay, this is one of my favorite tips I want to share with you. When producing a track, whether it be for songwriting, like demoing something out, for getting inspiration or ideas, or something that you're trying to create. This is the creation part. As producers and songwriters and whatever we are in here, this is the fun part. This is where the magic's made, because if this part sucks, it doesn't get better. Like, you can't take a crappy song that hasn't been built right and then like polish a turd to make a shiny little gold nugget. It's going to be a shiny little turd nugget. So what I like to do is use household items. Oh, I'm going to skip this part and go over here to do it. I use household items to create parts. I've used a microwave slamming in Studio A of Blackbird Studio on a track for a snare clap. It just sounded dope. So someone slammed it closed. I'm like, we're just recording. That's fine. Whatever you want to do. So I'm like, actually, it sounded really good. Let's put a mic in the lounge. So we mic'd up a microwave. I've mic'd up playing pool, a cue ball hitting the other ball. I'm going to show you that in the song in just a second. But sometimes, I mean, just to show you, let me show you this. Jake and I, he was videoing, and I had to create some content for Samsung, for a cell phone thing. And we did it in the recording studio using things we had sitting around in the house in the studio. But like, here, I better just show you. That was the clap. This laptop closing. Let's show it again. Okay, so just remember that sound. I got this here. Everybody's done that before. Obviously, the more liquid you put in there, whatever, you can make it sound higher or lower. Bubble wrap on probably pants very similar to these.
Like this.
I've got it's an SM7. You can see under like the text there, under the font. There's SM7B pointed at it, and
Wrap, man.
so that's bubble wrap, man, according to me. Then we took a little glass with an eraser for different tones.
That's cool.
Just chop it up, make a tone,
Yeah.
edit it a little bit.
Mic it up.
That sound is something I hear in the recording studio all the time, just not in the part of the studio you would expect. Check it out. Yeah. White noise, crowd noise, guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what we ended up with. Check this out. That's the Samsung theme song. Yeah? So that's like stuff you can find, I mean, anything. Jake was telling me on the way here, he just recorded himself. I'm tapping my fingers on the desk. Just tapping his finger on the desk for a beat in a, what kind of genre were you working with? Just a pop song. I know that for a video I was doing some sound design on, I did my fingernails. You can't really hear that, guys, whatever. Just pretend like you hear fingernails on a table for like a chihuahua running across the stage. I'm like, I needed like a little footsteps for a little dog. How do you do that? Let's mic that up. Like stuff like that. Dogs being caught in chained in like little shackles and kennels in like a puppy mill. I needed those chains rattling, stuff like that. I had a class of third graders at the time, like putting chains on the seats of their desks, the metal things, and hitting it with pencils and stuff like that. And made it in the film. So like stuff like that. Think outside the box. Use what you have. If you don't have a drum room and a drum set, figure it out. Like I didn't use any real instruments on that track you just saw up there. Again, here's that while I look up the next thing. So that whoop, 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 whoop was the bottle blow. We reversed it in the mix. So it had more of that swell into it. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Like, just get creative, whatever you have. But you can use this practically. Like, that's not a practical song. Samsung loved it, but that's not going to make it on a record. There was a song by the band Stars Go Dim that I produced and mixed. This was literally 9 years ago. And this is like the one I used the cue ball in. Don't mind the mix here, but hold on. There it is. So you can use what I just told you in a practical application. Like they wanted something, we don't want a snare, we don't want to clap, we don't want to snap, which everybody does. And if you guys are producing it all, your clients at some point you go say, hey, I don't want a snare or clap, figure it out. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you can slap your laptop closed. I'm not going to do it because it'll probably fry this whole system. But, I mean, hit something. Get around. Go around your room. Go in your car and just, like, tapping a beat on your steering wheel. Like, that's it. Drag a mic out to your steering wheel. Make it work. Like I said, the microwave was an accident. The pool table thing, we went to a local bar in Phoenix, Arizona, and did that. And captured just a pool ball. I don't roll those that deep. I don't have a pool table in my house, so I had to go borrow somebody's. So yeah, anyway, use what you have. Think outside the box. Household items are great, especially when creating something that's different and original. Timbaland is a huge example of that in the hip hop world. I mean, he's is in tracks. He's got stuff like that. He set down like a Coke can on his coffee table in the studio, and they used that on the track. Like, just it happens, and you can be that happening. You can be on that level. Just be very assertive and very confident with what you're doing. If the artist asks, what the hell did you just do? Tell them, I went and played pool for an hour, and in the second hour, I recorded the pool table. It's just do your thing. You can't be wrong if you're the producer, and if the artist is hiring you, they like you because of what you're doing. Let's move on. Just look at my list here. Oh, this is fun. Guys, you're going to like this. Okay. Vocals. Who in here has a vocal? Me. Okay, so this song.
This is your moment. This is your time.
Yeah, I guess you can sing.
I want you to know how it feels.
A little bit of an accent. So something I like to do in multiple genres. You'll hear it a lot in things that are overproduced. I say overproduced, really produced out. 21 Pilots is a band I've worked with, but they do this a lot in their production style. They will take the vocal. Here we go.
This is your moment.
The track soloed is it's just mono.
This is
Same thing
your
that's right above it, just a
time.
regular vocal, but I'm just using it as a duplicate.
I want you to know.
Auto-tune is one program you can use. There are millions others. Any way you want to. Shift that pitch. There's just a little button up here that says transpose. So I can make her sound gnarly.
This is your moment.
Okay, yeah.
This is your time.
That might be the sound you're going for a vocal break in a track, or for a really cool little end of the sentence thing, like singing, whatever it may be. I don't know what you're producing, but if you're like, that's cool and all, but what if we need something a little different? I'm using Alter Boy here by Sound Toys, one of my favorite. Before I get there, here, let me show you back on Auto-Tune real quick. They have a formant thing. It could be called formant. This one's called throat. It just changes. Changes like that kind of, like how throaty you get, how muffled you get, that kind of thing. So here's
This is your moment.
formant.
This is your time.
Still in the same pitch. It's just
I want you to know how it feels being alive.
okay, cool, right? Yeah.
Shadows disappear.
Shh. So with Alter Boy, I like the way the formant hits it a little better. So I can make her sound almost like a dude. What if I wanted a duet or a vocal thing? Like when I track, sorry, ADD. I have a female vocalist most of the time. If it's thinner or a high male, and you'll hear this in Pink, you'll hear this in Celine Dion, some of her stuff. You'll hear this in a lot of the big Avril Lavigne, Kelly Clarkson. If you're listening to those songs that are hitting Taylor Swift, her vocals are up here. There's usually a guy doubling her vocal part really low in the mix. You listen for that, but there'll be like a guy, or if it's not a guy, maybe it's this trick. So I have it pitched down already.
This is your moment.
It's not that guy, but it is, maybe it's this guy.
This is your moment.
Who's that?
This is your time.
Now, it doesn't sound great, but it's just blended.
I want you to know how it feels.
There it is.
Being alive.
It's subtle. That's only 8 decibels down, which is higher in the mix than I would mix a vocal double, usually if I'm doing just stacking vocals in a chorus or something. But it adds that, the same way the low tom added some girth to that snare. This, we're going to call him Bob, adds a lot to her vocal. And it just fills in those frequencies, because otherwise you're like, what is missing? You can add reverb out to the 9s. You can add delays out to the 9s, but you're still missing that low frequency stuff. And if you add it into her core vocal track, it's just going to start sounding really muddy in your mix because of the sympathetic frequencies and overtones and stuff I'm not going to get into. So I usually duplicate the vocal, pitch it up or down, depending on if you're doing pop stuff or EDM stuff where you want that really high. Hip-hop does it a lot, dance stuff. With that really high octave up sound, you can do the same thing and adjust the formant the other way. If you wanted to sound thicker or sound really, really thin and shrill, whatever you're doing, you can do that. You can also add drive to it.
This is
Your moment.
Let's go back up volume-wise.
This is your time.
It makes it distorted, but it could add some grit
I want you to know
in your
how
mix.
it feels.
If you're doing rock stuff or something really aggressive, all of a sudden just automate that drive up a little bit, and it gives your vocals that edge. That's a trick. You can also use the same trick with Auto-Tune to manually go in graphic mode, and you can move it to create a harmony if you want to. So if you want a third up, fourth, fifth, whatever, third below, you can do that and automate it all and still adjust the format to make it sound like a real human. And all of a sudden you have 2 or 3 vocalists. You have a singer that's singing harmony with themselves. Pro tip, I usually don't use the lead vocal for that. I will use a take that I'm not using in the mix because the breaths don't line up exactly right. It's not exactly edited perfectly, so it sounds fake. It sounds, there's movement in the tracks. So the lead vocal might be singing slightly or perfectly on because you've corrected it, but the harmony that you're creating, the farmony as I call it, the fake harmony, is slightly off. And that sometimes creates a bigger sounding, natural sounding background vocal. You can also use a an alternate take of the lead vocal as a doubler. And if you don't, you can fake it. Let's get there by pitch shifting.
This is your moment.
Cool. Let's create a new track. We're going to need it stereo. Yes. Thank you. It's going to need to go to the mix. Track mix. And this will just be our wide track. Now, on the wide track, we're going to need to send it to it. We'll just do that. We'll solo that up. What do I have on this computer for widening? Could use that. And we can use microshift. That could work. Whatever you have. I mean, DAWs have all sorts of things. Waves has a ton of them. I don't have my Waves plugins on this iLock. Nauseator. BGV thickener sounds promising. And we're going to wet 100%. Let's see what that sounds like.
This is your moment.
Definitely stereo. Here it is with the lead.
Your time.
So now it sounds like we've got 3 people.
I want you to know how it feels.
Let's bring this down a little bit.
Being alive, your freedom is near.
That's a solid, thick
Shadows
vocal that's
disappear.
occupying a lot of space in your mix.
You can walk
So if you
on the
need-
street like your whole.
If you need her to like take up a lot of space in your mix, and you don't have the doubles or triples from whoever tracked this or sent it to you to mix or whatever, or if you forgot to track it when you're doing that or whatever, she got sick and now you can't record her, then fake it. I call it a wide track, and it's in almost most of my mixes. Yeah, almost most of my mixes. Yeah, that's cool. English is good. So
This is your moment.
without it,
This is your time.
with it, it adds a little bit of width, depth to it. And you can detune that if you want to. You can put phasers and flangers on that widening thing to give it even more motion. It's kind of fun. Play with that while you're producing stuff. Reverb on the 2s and 4s of the Clarkson snares. Done. Okay, so this is not a snare that's in this mix, but I just put one in this mix, a random one. It sounds like this. You'll see why it's not in the mix.
This is your moment.
Now, if you were into that, then that's cool. Whatever. Me, this wasn't the mix I was going for. So, but I put this snare in here.
This is your moment.
I went ahead and printed a reverb. It's really just this deverb that I have up here. So I printed it on this pink track down here. This is all it is. I'm just going to show you that's what I used. Deverb comes with Pro Tools. It's there. So here's what it sounds like with that reverb printed.
This is your moment.
It was like a 8-second plate or something. I just put something big with a lot of high end on it, as you can hear.
This is your moment.
But something that's cool while you're just to change it up. Take your stuff from a GarageBand mix up. Like you could just leave it there and be like, okay, cool. Set it, forget it. I'm going to get some coffee. But what if you just took it off of every other one, and all of a sudden it was like,
This is your moment.
that's cool. It just changed the vibe completely, and all you did was mute every other reverb. You can do that. What if you gate that reverb? So it's like,
This is your time.
so it's like half a beat. It's here it is solo. Some people, I realized, can't hear what I'm doing. Abruptly cuts off. Or you can have it go as long as you want to. A big verb, print it, cut it as short as you want to, as big as you want to. But it's kind of cool if a kick comes in that beat, which it does in this one, for the kick to stop the reverb. Snare kick, like that kind of thing. It kind of just gives you this little push-pull motion in your mixes and your production. Just something to think about. Apply that to any instrument, vocal thing that you would like to do. Hint, hint. Drops and risers. These are my fun things to do. Let's look at this. What should we do? Oh, this was fun. We'll do that. So risers are the things that, that's just a word, build-ups, swells into the big part. Like we did earlier with the reverse tom or whatever. It goes right before the big part. That's a riser because it goes up. One thing I like to do a lot of times while everything's going up and getting exciting and what the hell's happening? Whatever, my head's gonna explode. The part that's going up and up and up. What if we brought something down with it? So one of my favorite things to do is to add a drop to the riser. So you have something going down, hitting those subs at the same time everything's getting hyped up. And everybody's like, whoa, more energy. An example of that I have in verse 1 here somewhere. First interlude. That's my first day. This part here. First interlude. So, without that, let's see, here it is. Build. That's cool and all. I have this 808 drop I just threw in here last night while I was prepping for this. It sounds like this. Yeah, might be a little hot in the mix. But if you add that into this rise, all of a sudden it gives you two. So you got things swirling around left and right, but it also feels like frequencies are going up and dropping at the same time. Your mix just went like that. So when you're producing tracks, think about frequencies, not only just left and right panning, think about things you got high up in the mix and low down the mix, as well as front to back. So you have reverbs that might be introduced or delays that are introduced that are bigger in a rise because all of a sudden you want things to sound loud. If you go to a cavern and go, hey, you're not going to hear a hey, 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 hey coming back at you. But if you go, hey, 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 like that could happen. So when things are loud, your brain wants to hear the reflections. It wants to hear the reflections off this wall, this wall, this wall, and this wall, all coming back and bouncing off each other. So if you want something to be perceived as bigger, you're going to add longer delay trails, bigger reverbs, and that's across the board on any instrument you want to. Like when you're doing a track and you want that snare to sound big, it's not usually tit, it's like it's because reverb tail. This hearing, your brain automatically wants to hear it. And if it doesn't hear it, it assumes that must be small. So it doesn't matter. It's not just volume. It's depth, width, height, all sorts of things. Think about that. So just like with the snare to sound bigger, we added a low tom to it. Even though most people don't think of low frequencies when they think of tom or snares hitting. If you add that to it, your snare automatically sounds bigger because you're raising the frequency range. Just think about that sometime in the future. The stuff that goes on in my brain, you guys don't even know. Those kind of songs and stuff. Oh, another riser. Let's do this. The first word of the song. Here's the vocal again.
This is your moment.
And she does a little. This is. She like kind of slurs a little sound there.
This is your.
It's like her tongue going to the back of her teeth or something. This is. But whatever. We're gonna take that out, and I just want this first.
This is your.
I don't need the S. I don't need a big slur. I want the. So I have that right here. With a huge reverb tail on it, which looks like, I don't know what I have here. 8-second, large hall, just all default, whatever it came with here. Cool. That sounds cool. You can leave it like that if you want to. Sometimes people accent certain words. What if you take that, put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it? Here it is printed. Go back to our little handy-dandy reverse. I'm new. There we go. We'll flip it around and move it back to somewhere where it belongs. Okay, I don't like the at the end of it. We'll chop that off the same way we did with the reverse tom. Boop. Just add it right up there. We don't even need this anymore. That we're gonna mute. Yeah, let's mute that track all together. So now kind of leads up. This is not mixed.
This is your moment.
Kind of gives you a cool little swell into what you're doing. It's good for coming out of breakdown choruses, bridges or something. Even the first line of a song, if it's a cold entrance like this. Automate it. You can pan it. You can stutter edit it. So this is your moment. It could be something like that. Get creative with that. But the reverse reverb thing, again, it's a thing that's been around for years and years and decades. Most of us probably know, but if you didn't, now you know. This is a fun one I did yesterday by myself. Sitting in my studio at my house, I pulled up a trusty SM58 and went right into it. And where did I put it? Chorus one. And somewhere, oh, this is my ha. Conveniently labeled ha. There it was, really loud in the mix. Literally this same mic, me going, see how it sounds the same? A little pitchy today, but bear with me. But if you add a huge verb to that, 22.1 seconds, I could go bigger. Whoever said what? Just kidding. Suddenly I have my own crowd noise I just created kind of for a big hit at the beginning of a chorus. I don't know why I have auto-tune on here, but this could be interesting. Probably because if you want, you can make it go or the other way if you want to. And you can automate that. In Pro Tools, it's the 3-finger salute control option command. Click it. Enable for transpose. And then if you just lift your middle finger, on the 3-finger salute. So that's Control Command. You can click the same thing, and it automatically just set my track here to the automation of it. So we want it right in the middle, and we can just, pretend like we care and do that right like that. So it automatically is now automating that. You can watch up here in the transpose area. Yeah, whatever. You can make Nintendo sounds that sound like. But that's a cool thing for the like when the beat drops or a big, like the chorus hits. You'll hear it in this mix here. I'll turn it down in volume wise, but here it is when the chorus hits.
You are so fully fly.
I didn't EQ it. I didn't automate it. I just turned off the auto-tune thing. But all of a sudden, it gives you like this cool, like, a breath of fresh air, literally. Well, dirty air, but whatever.
You are so fully fly.
Just something cool. If your song doesn't call for a huge cymbal crash or a big clap that goes out for 48.5 seconds, you can have a breath that goes out for 22.1 seconds. And again, automate it. You can make it duck with your kick drum. So if you want to just pump this in your mix, and then have your kick drum duck it using a compressor on sidechain, it can go in tempo with your song, which is really cool. And you can just print it and have it go out for, a whole minute and just chop the parts you need for your choruses or something like that as a hype track. But it's that simple. If you have any mic, you can even just lean into your computer if it has a mic on there and just go and EQ it how you want to. That probably has a little too much low end for me, but just something to think about, something to do while you're at home producing tracks or wherever. But do something else that's fun. Now, some of these notes I can't show you up here because I don't have an electric guitar in here and I don't play electric guitar. But a fun thing to do sometimes for a distorted vocal effect is to yell into a pickup of an electric guitar. So you just crank up the gain on it, put some distortion on it, hold it up, and yell right into the hole of the guitar. What am I doing? Why am I teaching a class? Or whatever's going through your mind. And you can just yell it right into there and just record it. And it's this really cool, naturally distorted, I say naturally, it's electric guitar. But it's not using these plugins, the same 3 plugins like SansAmp and Decapitator that everybody that you know uses on their mixes. You now have a Les Paul through a dual rec or whatever that you just happen to have in the studio. You just yelled into. I don't know. Maybe if you don't play guitar, you can just sing into one. So that's something cool I like to do. I don't have this on here either, but fake choir or gang vocals. The first record I ever worked on a professional level, my first major label credit was The System Has Failed by Megadeth, and that was in 2003. I was in the studio with them. And the producer at the time on that record was Jeff Balding, who is a Nashville guy, showed me this trick where how you can fake having a motley crew of men in a room by just having 2 of them, 2 or 3. And we'll get to this in a second if you don't have 2 or 3 men hanging around your house. For instance, I was hired on as an intern, ended up engineering and doing a whole bunch of stuff on that record that I should never have done, but I did because I lied to them and told them I knew what I was doing. My line they said they had us sing was "Die Dead Enough." So it's like, "Die Dead Enough." Now that doesn't sound like a motley crew of men, but me and this other intern did it just like that 2 or 3 times, and then he had us turn around right where we were. Like, okay, so the mic's here, you want to aim that way. That's cool, whatever. So we turn around this way and we go, "Die Dead Enough." But what that does is mics up a little bit more of the room sound, because when you're miking up a gangly group of guys, which I'm sure we all do, when you're standing on a pirate ship, they're not all facing the same way. Sometimes there's guys over there. Sometimes people are checking their texts. Whatever. Same with like church gospel situations. A lot of times people are clapping, whatever. They're singing this way, they're singing this way. Sometimes just a regular choir of people. It's whatever. If you got a group of people are knuckleheads, so they're aiming different ways. But then he had us sing like we're drunk. Okay. Die Dead Enough. And then we had to actually drink because we're not good fake drinkers. So they gave us a lot of Jaeger at the time. And so we slurred. Then they said, sing like you're what did they do? Like we're pirates. So like, "Die Dead Enough." And they said football team. And then they said like your favorite Muppet character. Like we're in there going, "Die Dead Enough." Like just like that. But if you listen to that track and like in the studio, I heard him do it. It wasn't faked like in the mix. I heard it in the studio as we're tracking, playing back. It sounds like a group of people. Because when you mic up this room of people, like the lady back there is not going to sound like the dude up here. Like you just guys can't sing. Maybe you can. I don't know how you sing. But most likely we have different voices, different formants of our voices, different frequency ranges. Our throats are different lengths. I'm not going to get into it, human anatomy, but people sound differently. So that's a good way to create a group of big people. Now, what if your group of people left you and you're by yourself? I had to do this for a song I produced, and I don't have it here. I wish I did. Where I had to sing a choir myself, and I did the same thing. I sat here with a 58, and I sang a choir part up high as I could. I pitched the song down, bounced it. This is a trick. Pitched the whole song down two whole steps because I don't have a high voice at all. Sang it at the top of my voice, which happened to work in that key. Then I went back to the original session, which is in the regular key, and tuned, using auto-tune, my voice back up. Adjusted the formant a little bit, and it sounded like I could sing really high. It was great. Same for the really low stuff. A lot of the tenors in here, sopranos, women, anything that needs to sing lower, the same way I showed you can make an octave lower, still sound like a guy. But change where in your throat you're singing. So maybe you're singing like this, maybe you're singing like this, whatever, thicker, thinner. Add vibrato, fake it if you can. I can't sing, so that's not real vibrato. This is me moving my neck because I can't sing. But like people who can sing can do that. So you need to mimic that. So if you need to make a choir, you can fake it, you can do it. Stack it up. Harmonies, we talked about that. Low octaves. Here are some I have a list of random things I could just tell you. Feel free to get up and leave if you're done. But I'm going to keep talking. Something's cool. I talked a minute ago about like the 808 kick trigger where you can set up a signal generator with like a 50 or 60 hertz tone. So it's just going boom, like a big rumble, just nonstop. You can use your kick and just trigger that with a compressor on the 50 hertz tone track. Signaled activated, it kicks in when it's keyed by the kick, which you can set up in your DAW. There's so many DAWs, I can't show you how to use them all, but there's a way to do it, YouTube it. And so every time the kick hits, your 50 hertz tone will open up. It'll open the gate or release the compression off of it, depending on how you have it set up. Opens the gate and lets it go boom instead of boop, boop. It can open up that, and you can shape the format of that as well. That's a common old school trick. Look up the 808 kick trigger thing on YouTube. To take an extra step, though, what if you have a bass line on an organ playing like solid whole notes, the bass line of the whole song? Doon, 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 whatever. You can use that same trick with a kick triggering it, mute the main kick, but just have it opening up the gate on that doon, doon, doon when a kick or a beat of your choice kicks in. So if the beat's going doon, 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 it'll go doom, 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 doom. So now you have a bass track created out of a kick drum and an organ or whatever you're using for those low frequencies, rhythmically without it sounding too mechanical, like dun, 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 dun. It's like boom, 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 boom. Almost creating like you're almost like an 808 rhythm or melodic track for the low end. You can do it for high end. You can do it for guitars. You can do it for vocal reverb. Pro tip. But something cool just to give some motion and movement into your mix, into your production. Something I like to do is I duck my reverb and piano and some guitar tracks with the vocals. So when the vocals kick in, it'll knock your guitar tracks, your piano tracks, the vocal reverb tracks down a few decibels to make room for the vocals. So when these vocals are singing, you don't want them trying to compete with its own reverb or the pianos or guitars, which are in the same frequency spectrum as your vocals. So if they're ducking out of the way every time your vocal sings, maybe you made room. Oh, this is cool. So I'll show you something else. These people who left are going to regret it. I got some tracks back here somewhere in the synth guitar land. There we go. So a trick that I like to use, Jake uses it as well, is when you track guitars for some kind of mix, or you're mixing guitars in some kind of production, whatever it is. Here, let's play this. We'll see what this sounds like. This is a rock song. I mean, it's kind of cool, it's beefy, but a lot of times what I'll do in a rock song or a pop song where it just needs more energy, you can record the same thing exactly like you're doing it, the same riff, but just record it on the very thickest string, the low string of your guitar with tons of distortion, make it sound nasty, and just make it just one string. Just play the bottom string, that's all you gotta play, or have them play. And it all of a sudden adds just energy to your track, a distortion to your track that you can blend in there way below everything else, They're like, wow, I just have energy. Something else you can do though, I'll play that exact same guitar part on a synth. Massive Aggressor, is that yeah, there's a preset in Massive called Aggressor I like to use. You have to jack with it a little bit, but it sounds like this. And it's cool for just adding an extra layer to. So kind of mimicking your core rhythm guitars with a synth, and it could be something that's more, what's a good word? Sequenced than that. And it could keep driving. You can push it up in the mix and make it an actual part. This is meant to kind of blend in and give you a little more hype, and you're not sure what you're hearing, but you're hearing something which makes it sound bigger and bolder and more beautiful. Oh, pro tip number H. 808 and bass drops should probably be in the key of your song. So that's a thing that a lot of people neglect to do. Like, oh, I've got my bass drop I use on everything. I'm just going to put it in here. Well, if it's not in the key of your song, all of a sudden something sounds wrong. Even though it sounds really cool, something sounds wrong. And there are those harmonics and sympathetic frequencies which are hitting in octaves and increments of octaves that are just popping up throughout, taking up a lot of room that are in the wrong key. So it might sound like your guitar's out of tune all of a sudden. Might sound like your synth is not playing right, but everybody knows synths are probably playing right. What's going wrong? That bass drop or the 808s just need to be in the tune of your song. So if your tune song, that one we just heard was A flat, then you want to have your bass drops at least start and end on A flat. Or your big 808 booms in the key of A flat. Or A, I guess A flat, whatever, whatever. Music. I talked about that last year when I got to do this in the room over there. I got kicked out of the room because I talked too much, and I was only like on point number 3 out of 82. I was gonna like how to mix a song and was stuck on snare drums because I really like snare drums. Did we get the bass?
Yeah, we got to the bass and then that was it.
And then you kicked me out. Yeah, and I'm like, by the way, there are vocals and guitars. See you later. But Loic told me that I can have an extra 15 minutes today, so if you guys aren't doing anything, I can talk for another 17 minutes exactly. However, I have successfully planned this one to where I'm done with my list of fun things I was going to share with you and open it up to questions or any clarification of crap I talked about today or haven't talked about today. And I'm totally easygoing, so just, feel free to yell at me or raise your hand or whatever we do in classroom situations. What's up, man?
Any chance you taking a picture of that list?
I do have a picture of this list, or I can just leave it here if you want to take a picture of this list. Okay. Yeah? You want me to? Oh, wait, here. Hold on. Everybody. I don't know if you can see that. There it is, guys. And it's gone. Just kidding. No, I'll just leave the list up here, and you guys can come look at it and take a picture of it. Good luck deciphering it. It's like my notes. I know. Does this button do something? Not that. Oh, I'm in Pro Tools.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So, in the example of the ducking, where you set it up
A little better.
when the lead vocal is active, and you set it up where the other instruments.
Yeah, ducking the reverb and the other instruments. Yeah.
So that can kind of help instead of having to do automation on those other instruments.
A lot of times, yes. It's not going to totally do away with your automation on instruments. I highly recommend automating everything, even if it's very, very slight 0.3 of a decibel automation up and down. I highly recommend you just moving a fader, moving the mouse, drawing it in, just like a little very slow S curve, just motion. Because when real instrumentalists and players play something, they're not playing at one velocity the whole time. You know what I mean? You go watch a show of any genre, there's dynamics, and you need to have that moving. And that little movement creates a lot of motion in your mix. But yes, the ducking of the reverb, ducking of the piano, and things that would compete with your lead vocal definitely helps with minimizing the amount of automation you need to do on those tracks as well as your vocal to make it sit on top. You're not wasting headroom, you're saving it. Anybody? What's up, man? Right here.
Do you use a lot of analog stuff when you're in the studio, or do you typically just use software?
Okay, so I record a lot of live bands, which I will use, all analog preamps. I compress very minimally to tape, to ones and zeros because we don't use tape anymore. So just as long as nothing's clipping, I'm good with it. There are some things I know that I like, so I will compress vocals a little bit depending on the genre, and I've done this for 17 years full time now, so I kind of know what I need for later and what I don't. Toms and stuff like that, I EQ the crap out of the toms on the way in. But I don't do a lot of stuff outboard. And in my mix, I've just recently started going back to like a hybrid situation. I've got a tape machine, like you can find it for $300 on Craigslist. Just like half-inch tape, just roll through it and back into Pro Tools for me or whatever you're using to give it some, just open up the low end a little bit. It does magic. As well as some compressors I have that are outboard. I really love Warm Audio stuff. Their WA2A, LA2A clone, and their WA2As, 1176s. Yeah, WA76s are also really good. And I had all of them, the purple, I had the Yuri, I had the UA 1176, and I still went to the Warm 1176s first. And they're a lot cheaper. Warm Audio. Yeah, look them up. So for like $400, $500, you can get it up 1176 instead of, $1,100. Yeah, highly recommend it. There's a hand right over here.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, welcome back.
How about, do you have any tips on beefing up bass guitar?
Beefing up bass guitar, absolutely. In this track, I might actually have something real quick. Let me get rid of all of that. So beefing up bass guitar, a lot of things I like to do when I'm tracking electric guitars or bass guitar, I will record the DI as well as the distorted or affected signal. It A, helps with editing because you can see the transients every time you strum or pick it. But B, gives you an alternate sound. You can reamp the guitar later, or you can blend in the frequencies. On this one, I have 3 bass tracks. This one is percussive bass. I have a sub bass, which is this one, blended in, which is basically, that's a synth one, but all the high end rolled out of it. And I have this one that comes into, where's this one? That's not me. Very distorted, very plucky, kind of angry. Too much for these speakers to handle, but that's a good way to thicken it up. I duplicate my bass tracks. I'm trying to talk into the microphone and make eye contact. I'm not going to start pulling. Just know I'm here talking to you. Eye contact through the computer. I duplicate it sometimes 3-4 times and have a section for really distorted mid-range. I have a section that's all lows. I have a section that's just like the attack of the pick hitting the string. So you have that attack. And you can adjust the compression on each of these. So if you want more of that plucky sound, you adjust that attack on the compressor on just the high end or the mid-high end. But that low end still sneaks under without being compressed. And I have all that going to like a bass bus, which I'll usually run through some tape emulator. The Studer A800 is really good on the UA stuff. Kramer tape is really cool. The Waves make some cool ones. But some kind of tape emulator. I figured they used to record stuff all the time through tape. I just throw tape on everything. Dirties it up a little bit, opens it up a little bit. I'm like, how would you do it if you had it? I'd run it through this. Oh, I better just run it through that then. So I started with my mixes and my production stuff, trying to fake the tape sound, which is kind of a backwards way of working. But it made music that was great back in the day. Why can't we do it these days? Everybody's doing it in their garage, but it sounds thin. Let's do it in our garage and make it sound thicker by running it through tape and expanding the frequencies and the harmonics that come along with tape saturation.
So what you just described, you would just copy the same instance and just EQ it differently then?
Yes, copy the same instance. If you only have one instance of the bass, copy it, and then just EQ carve the crap out of it. Like that sub bass was probably really open. I printed all my effects before I came here because I didn't know what was on this computer effect-wise. But yeah, I took all the high-end information out completely, like from 60 hertz down. It's just a sub-channel. That's like, make it feel in the car. You might not even hear it on your speakers. And then I have like a crunchy one in the middle. Yeah, and you can add distortion, whatever you want to do to it. You can make it wide. You can make one a stereo and the rest of them right down the middle. Whatever you want to do. Mom thing.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, dude. What's up, man?
Do you keep all your sub basses in mono, and where do you go about like deciding where to keep it?
So yes, they are mono. This is a mono track. It's just when I printed it, when I commit my tracks in Pro Tools, it makes them stereo, or it made them stereo in this case, because of the effects I had on them or whatever. But yeah, I try to keep all my bass and low frequencies right down the middle. I just rule of thumb for me, the way I think, all the low stuff's in the middle, and the higher the frequency is, the further out it goes. So like my synth parts that are really hyped up, my vocal harmonies that are kind of airy, I'll even put a widening plug-in on it to make it even wider than wide. It's like they're way out here, and like the lower frequencies go towards the middle. And if I wanted to take up a lot of resonancy, like vocals, which have low to highs, I just pan them, like I showed you earlier with a widener, to give them some real estate, left, right, and center. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I try to keep all my sub basses and most of my bass right down the middle, along with the kick drum.
Signals pretty much all like high frequencies. and
Yep.
low frequencies.
Yep. Mostly, yeah. What's up, man?
Hey, so Melodyne, I don't know if you use this at all, but it has a conversion process to MIDI. I was wondering if you use that at all.
I have used it. I don't have Melodyne on here. I'm supposed to have Melodyne on here. I don't have Melodyne on here. Yes, and there's some other plugins that use it as well. So if you have a specific question on how to use it, I don't know, but I have done it before, and it's pretty accurate. Do you use Melodyne on stuff ever? The conversion to MIDI?
Cubase has this exact same feature.
Yeah, it's like
And I'll use it on bass sometimes to make
a synth track out of a bass.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard people doing that with other instruments as well. Did you have a specific question about it? Or? I have used it. I don't have it on here yet. I've had it in the past. What's up, man?
When you're stacking the harmonies,
Yeah, harmonies.
at what point does phase become an issue?
It could become an issue at phase 1. So you have to be very patient with that and very aware of that. Stacking harmonies. Okay, so that's why I like to use alternate takes. So ones that didn't make the cut for lead vocals, that didn't make the comp, I will use that most of the time. And if I don't have it, you just have to watch out. There are plugins like Waves makes the double or 2, double or 4, which are great and avoid the phase things and create intentional phasing by moving it. And that's all right. But I mean, if you're faking it already, that's the best you can do. Obviously, you want to have a vocalist in there singing the parts if you can. But if you can't, man, there might be times where phase comes into play a little bit. But if you're changing the tune and changing the pitch, usually it's all right because that changes the frequency of the waveforms. And at that point, this waveform is not matching up with this waveform. Yeah. Anybody else? Questions, comments, suggestions, threats? You can always invert phase. It might cancel it out, though. So if it's perfectly like unison, all of a sudden you have nothing.
Real quick one.
Yeah.
So, earlier you were talking about beefing up the snare.
Yeah.
And with the layers, it seems like that's a way of beefing up that sound without adding a lot of EQ to the single sound. You know?
Right. If you're happy with your main snare, yeah, you don't have to EQ much of that, but you can add a tom in, or you can add a snap or a clap or a cymbal chick to add higher frequencies if you want to, without really adjusting your main snare sound. So if you can't adjust your main snare sound, if you have a stereo track that's been sent to you to rap on, sing on, whistle on, or whatever, which is very common in a lot of genres, you get a stereo track, you can't adjust anything in that mix, okay? So if you have that snare, but you like, the snare just doesn't have it, you put it on a grid, you add that, whatever you need to add to it, and just blend it in there the best you can. And it's possible, not the greatest situation, but yeah, you usually can get by with leaving the original snare intact. Yeah. Man. Anybody else? Clarification? What's up, man?
You're talking about that trick of the running out to half-inch tape and back. You do that with every track?
Sometimes, no, sometimes it's mostly buses. So, and it's not all instruments. Sometimes I like how it sounds on drum samples and drum buses, loops and stuff like that. I love it on. Sometimes on vocals, it just takes away something. Sometimes it adds a lot. So it's a lot of trial and error, but mostly it's buses. So I have all of my drums bussed to one group, and I'll run that through their stereo track. Sometimes I'll run my bass stereo track there. Sometimes it's just the master mix. Like I have everything mixed, I'll just run it through tape and see what happens. Most cases it's bass, drums, and then the master mix after that's all done. But it's you're in the kitchen, bake with what you got, and sometimes you don't want to add so much sugar this time. Sometimes you want a crap ton of sugar, like most of the time for me. But yeah, so it's really up to you and what your tape sounds like. And let me tell you this, with those old $300 tape machines you're going to find, those uprights, they're basically little 4 tracks or 2 tracks. You're going to need to EQ the crap out of it going to it or coming from it. I prefer to go to it. It's a little trick that Jake taught me. That if you EQ going to the tape, you're not raising the headroom or lowering the headroom, raising the noise floor coming back off the tape, because tape has noise and hiss and flutter and wow and all the stuff that you like to hear. But too much of it makes your mix all of a sudden sound really gross. So if you boost the frequencies that are problem frequencies from the tape already or cut them or whatever, EQ it pre-sending it to them. So you're sending it a really whack mix. When it comes back, all of a sudden it sounds normal. So you gotta kind of listen to it and go, oh, it's too much low end. So I'll carve the low end going to tape, and then it comes back just fine. Yeah, just to taste. You'll get your flavors just how you like it, and save them as presets. And like my 2 tape preset is pretty much EQ curve I put on all my buses when I go to tape with it. Yeah, I have 4 minutes. Anybody? Oh, Can-O-Tambos. Can-O-Tambos.com. It's literally every BPM from 50 to 150, and I had blisters for like 3 weeks. But a whole bunch of producers have them, a whole bunch of guys you've heard, and I've heard them on the radio, which is interesting. I'm like, that's my tambourine. But I also have other ones on there that are distorted and crushed. Crushed Can-O-Tambos is the orange one. Orange Crush is kind of fun. But just different saturation on those two to give you variance. You literally just drop it into your session and it matches up, and you can loop it. It's all phase coherent, and I built it for me, and then other people were like, where'd you get those? I'm like, I made them. So I started selling them. It's cheap and just sits there on the internet, waiting for people like you. Just kidding. I had fun. I appreciate you guys sitting here and listening to me talk and ramble. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'll be here for a little while longer. I want to go downstairs and visit some of the vendors, but if you have any questions that you just didn't want to yell out in class, maybe they're too dumb or, whatever, or like maybe I'm too dumb, please, grab me out here, and I'd love to talk to you, because teaching is one of my things I have a huge passion and heart for, whether it be kids or adults or anybody between, the dreamers. So, yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.